Greetings and salutations, Spartans. We are in Lesson 3 now. I want to go back to our original sequence. Simple exercise. Consider this arithmetic sequence. Hence, the purpose of the lesson. We are bringing in a couple of new terms. Okay. So, I will get to what arithmetic sequence is, but first, what's the rule? What is the rule for this sequence? 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so on and so on. Pause the video, take a minute, and come back when you're ready to learn. All right, you're back, and you should have figured out that I add 2 every time. And how do I know that? Well, to go from 2 and get to 4, I could do two things. I could either add 2 or I can multiply by 2. But to get from 4 to 6, I could add 2. Can I multiply 4 by 2 to get me 6? No, 4 times 2 would get me 8. So I can effectively cross this one out and go back to plus 2. Does plus 2 give me 8? I start out with 6, add 2, do I get 8? Yes, I do. Now, a couple of terms. First of all, the rule, the adding 2. That is called the common difference. The common difference. We call it the common difference because what is the difference between 2 and 4? To find the common difference, we take 4 and we minus 2, and I get 2. You see that? And if I take, oops, wrong. And if I take, if I take 6 and minus 4, I get 2, right? And if I take that, I do 6 minus, oh, I'm sorry, no, I don't do 6, I do 8, this term, minus this term, and I get 2. So that is the difference, okay? It tells us the gap between consecutive terms, okay? And we have a special name for this type of sequence, and we call it an arithmetic sequence. An arithmetic sequence is a sequence where you either add or subtract the same thing every time. If you add the same thing, it's going to be a plus. Like in this case, it was a plus 2. If it went down every time by 2, then my common difference would be a minus 2. Okay? Now, there is another term that we're going to introduce to you in the next lesson, but I want you to have exposure to it right now. And I want you to write this on your lesson sheet. This is also called simple interest. Okay, when you go to a bank and you see simple interest, you're adding or subtracting the same thing every time. Okay? And then here, I want you to write your equation or formula for that sequence. Okay? Next page, after I make sure I'm recording. Next page. Now we're looking at this geometric sequence. Again, we'll get back to what that means in a minute. Now, to get from 1 to 2, I could do either one of two things. I could add 1, right? Because 1 plus 1 does equal 2, but I could also times it by 2, because 1 times 2 also equals 2. Okay? For the next term, to get from 2 to 4, if I add 1 again, does 2 plus 1 equal 4? No, it does not. So I have to eliminate that from consideration. So Now let me ask you this. Does 2 times 2 equal 4? Why, yes, it does. And does 4 times 2 equal 8? Punch that in your calculator, you'll find out that it does. As does 8 times 2 equals 16, and 16 times 2 equals 32. So you know your rule is I times by 2 every time. Okay, now we call this timesing 2, we call that the common ratio because the number represents the ratio between consecutive terms. What do I mean by the ratio? Well, if I look at these two terms, I take 2 and divide it by 1, and I get 2, right? If I look at these two terms, right, I take 4, I divide it by 2, 4 divided by 2 is 2. We see that? And then I take these two terms, and 8 divided by 4 equals, what is it? It's 2. Okay? Now, I want you guys to do the same thing, except for this one in green, and I want you to do the same thing for this one in blue. I want those written over here for the blue and over here for the green. Okay? I want that on your sheet when I check it tomorrow. Okay? But you should get, every time you should get 2. Okay? Now, a geometric sequence is a sequence where we multiply by the same number, and that number is called the common ratio, every time. All right? There's another term that we use for geometric sequences at a bank. We call it, again, I want this written on your notes, we call it compound interest. Make sure that's written. And then, lastly, I want the equation for that sequence. And write that, actually not there, but down here. Write it down there. Okay, that's all for today. Short lesson. Have a great day.